Morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this morning's May 18th meeting of the Mojave County Board of Supervisors. We're going to start the meeting this morning with an invocation led by Pastor Tony Henry. And if you'd remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Supervisor Borelli.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to pray for us. Heavenly Father, we just thank you and we praise you for the freedoms that we have in this country. We thank you that we can come before you today as a public body and seek your guidance and wisdom for this meeting. We thank you that your Holy Spirit is present among us. We ask that you would give each county supervisors a heart of integrity and an open mind filled with discernment as they make decisions that affect the people of Mojave County. Give them patience to listen to one another and to the public, and the grace to understand different perspectives. And Father, as the school year comes to an end, we ask a special blessing of hope and prosperity over our graduates as they walk across stages and celebrate in graduation ceremonies across our county. Bless them as they begin this next chapter of their lives. And Father, we thank you for continuing to protect and to bless our nation. May all that we do bring glory to you. And it is in the loving name of Jesus that I pray this morning. Amen. Thank you, Father.
Ladies and gentlemen, please face the flag of a country that's brought more prosperity to the world than mankind has ever known. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board of Supervisors may by motion recess into executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorneys on any item contained in this agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431.03, A3, 4, and 7. Looking for a motion to call for an executive session to be held on June 1st, 2026 at 9 a.m.
So moved.
For that motion, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Spirit have it so ordered. Move to official business to come before the board. Item number 1, discussion of pending or contemplated litigation, claims, and demands. Attorney Davis.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Nothing to report.
Thank you, sir. We'll move to committee and or legislative reports. Supervisor Letman.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Gould.
Nothing today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Borelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Really nothing to report updated-wise from the County Board of Supervisors. The legislature is still battling with the governor over the budget. However, on Saturday, Supervisor Letman and I appeared at the Armed Forces Day celebration at the Veterans Park in Golden Valley. It was hosted by the VFW Post 255. And of course, I attended on Sunday our rededication of America, One Nation Under God. And it was rededication even for Lake Havasu City. That was on Sunday night, and it was a great turnout, very uplifting.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Martin.
Yes, sir. I attended a COM meeting up in Meadview, went to 2 water board meetings in Mojave County, one in Chloride and one in Dolan Springs. This last week, I attended the Kingman Elks Fishing for Smiles event. On Tuesday, it was for our special needs people in Kingman. Fantastic deal there. And then on Saturday, we had a record turnout of kids from Kingman who turned out to participate in the fishing all day. And I should note that Supervisor Lincolnfelter's son caught the largest catfish that's ever been caught in that pond. It weighed 14.35 pounds. And for the second year in a row, he won with the biggest fish. So a couple of really super events that I got to attend and participate in, and will continue participating in as long as I'm able.
Thank you, Supervisor. We didn't do any sort of a formal recognition, but this month was clerks. There was a clerks week in May. I think it was the first week of May, clerks week, and we want to say thank you to our clerks office for all that you guys do for us. And then there was also a public safety week, I think, where we were supposed to recognize all of the sheriff's deputies and all those that keep us safe. So just want to take a moment to recognize those 2 weeks in May and thank you for all of your service. We'll move to the county manager's report. Manager Stroll.
No report.
Thank you, sir. We've had a request to move up a couple of items this morning. The first item we're going to move up is item number 48. Item number 48 is on our regular agenda. Discussion, possible action, accept Mojave County's audited annual financial reports presented by the Auditor General's Office and audit contract firm Walker and Armstrong. Director Mornian. Good morning.
Thank you, Chairman Lingenfelter, board members. This is an annual item per statute. Once the audit is complete for the year, within 90 days, the auditor needs to present that to the Board of Supervisors during a regular scheduled meeting. I believe we have Carla Wall online via Teams from the Auditor General's Office, and Curtis Bright, one of the partners from Walker and Armstrong, is here as well. And if Carla is online, and I would turn it over to her.
Yes, good morning. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you. Thank you.
Chairman, members of the board, my name is Carla Wall, and I'm a technical manager with the Arizona Auditor General. On behalf of the Auditor General, we appreciate the opportunity to meet with you today and to have our contract auditors from Walker and Armstrong join us in presenting the county's fiscal year 2025 audit results to you. Thank you again for having us this morning. Before Curtis with Walker and Armstrong presents the county's fiscal year 2025 audit results to you, I'd briefly like to explain our role as it relates to the audit. The Arizona Auditor General is responsible for conducting annual audits of all Arizona counties or for causing those audits to be conducted. We sometimes contract audits due to our staffing levels and other audit demands. And when we contract county audits, we ensure that we select qualified CPA firms with experience in auditing counties and a good understanding of how those counties operate within the state of Arizona. We've contracted with Walker and Armstrong for the county's fiscal year 2025 audits. As part of our responsibilities related to the county's audit, we work with and provide direction to Curtis and his team as needed throughout the audit process. Once the audit's in its final stages, we review the county's draft audit reports, which are prepared by Walker and Armstrong, to help ensure that those audit reports meet applicable standards and that the auditor opinions expressed within those reports are consistent with the financial statements and any reported findings. So with that, I want to thank you for your time, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Curtis, and he's going to discuss the county's 2025 audits results with you. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman and the board. I have a PowerPoint presentation. So we have issued two separate reports regarding the county's financial as part of the audit. You should have received an audit report for the financial statements and then a separate report, which is called the single audit, which is strictly on the compliance of the federal awards. As a CPA, I enjoy financial statements. I have summarized these two reports into a presentation to discuss the 2025 audit. So first, the reason for receiving an audit is to receive an opinion on your financial statements. And this, we proud to state that we did issue an unmodified or a clean opinion on those financial statements, which means that they follow the accounting rules for governments, as well as we didn't find any material errors in the numbers in the financial statements. There are two new accounting rules that were implemented in these in these financial statements. One of them was related to the compensated absences, which means we had to accrue for additional sick time that was previously not accrued. The accounting rules changed in regards to that, so we had to restate or last year's numbers we had to correct because of this new accounting rule. And then there was another one related to certain risk disclosures that didn't have any effect on your financial statements, but there was a new rule for that. Some key performance measures. The total governmental activities, current and other assets increased $259 million, or of $259 million, increased $4.5 million from prior year. A good piece of those current assets is your cash and investments. As of June 30, 2025, your cash and cash equivalents was $236 million, which represents about 117% of your total government-wide expenses. And so you have a good, healthy reserve of cash and cash equivalents for the county. As we talk about internal controls, that's part of the second report, which is a single audit reporting. We did have some weaknesses in internal controls that we reported in our single audit, and we'll talk about those at the end of the presentation more in depth. as we look at your governmental activities, and is what this encompasses is all the activities within the government. It does not include any of your business type activities, which are your landfill, parks, and GVID that act as businesses within the county. So this is strictly the governmental activities of the county. Your current and other assets increased $4.5 million. 2.2 million of that is an increase in cash and cash equivalents during the year. And then you had some receivables or due from other governments that increased about $1.9 million of that. Your capital assets increased $7 million to just under $300 million. And that is due to almost $25 million of purchases throughout the year, and that was offset by depreciation and disposals of the assets as you dispose of them. The current liabilities decreased $16.2 million, and that's mostly due to a decrease in accounts payable and unearned revenues. Unearned revenues is when you receive cash prior to using the cash, and so most of that's related to the ARPA funding that was received but not spent until this last fiscal year. And so that is a decrease in the current liabilities because you used those revenues this year in 2025. The non-current liabilities decreased just under $5 million, and a good portion of that is because you had a decrease of $6.6 million in pension liabilities. The pension liability is always reported a year behind, and so in 23 and in 24, you had contributed significantly more than the required contributions for PSPRS to help pay down that liability, and now you're finally seeing that decrease in the pension liabilities in 2025 for the significant contributions you've made in the prior 2 years. So as your non-current liabilities, this is kind of a picture of your non-current liabilities as they relate. Most of your non-current liabilities is still related to your net pension liability. You'll notice that there is no current other debt other than leases and subscriptions. And so there's compensated absences. That's the number that increased from prior year because the accounting rule. You got lease payable, subscriptions, and some claims and judgments payable. As we look at the revenues of the county for June 30, 2025, overall your revenues decreased just under $6 million. And as what that's made up of is your charges for services decreasing $6 million, and that's related to a decrease in the opioid settlement activity during 2025. There are significant opioid settlements that were received in 2024, and in 2025 there's fewer organizations that had the settlement. In your operating grants and contributions decreased just under $10 million, and most of that is because of the decrease in the use of, you used significantly more ARPA and LATCF funding in the prior year, and this year you still use some, but it was not as much as in the prior year, and so that's what decreased your grants and contributions. Your taxes increased $6.6 million. That's primarily due to an increase of property taxes of $3.7 million, sales taxes of $1.5 million, and the state shared revenues of $1.3 million. That all get lumped into that taxes line. Your other general revenues did increase $3.6 million, and that is almost exclusively from your increase in investment earnings from June 30, 2025 from June 30, 2024. So that's what makes up most of that other general revenues is the earnings on your investments. For graphics information, you kind of see where the trend of where you've been for the last 3 years for the various types of revenues. It's always important to see. It's a lot easier to see in graphs than sometimes numbers. So they follow just the things that I talked about and the trends. You can see taxes trend up as your assessed values increases. You can see that continue to increase in taxes. On the expense side of the governmental activities, overall your expenses increased $13.8 million. That is made up of your general government expenses increasing $5.3 million, and this is a function, not necessarily departments. And most of that is increased in related in salaries and related of just over $2 million, and the aid to other governments of about $2.5 million. The public safety expenses increased $3.1 million. Most of that is due to an increase of non-capitalized repairs in of equipment and purchases of equipment that were non-capitalized equipment. And then there's about $3.6 million of various other expenses, but nothing really major that popped out in any significant category. The health expenses increased $3 million, and that is mostly tied to an increase in care of individuals of about $2.4 million, and then some other minor program expenses. Any questions on the revenues, expenses, or on the governmental activities statement of net position.
Supervisor Letman, thank you.
I had one question. What is a subscription liability? I don't
So-
understand that.
A subscription liability, it's the right to use someone else's software, but most of the time it's cloud software. So if you lease an asset or you lease a building, you have a physical asset, and you have a 3 or 4 or 5 year contract to lease that building. A lot of times now with a lot more things for services being in the cloud of using an online based software, you don't actually buy the software anymore, but you have a contract to pay for them for 4 or 5 years. And so subscription is basically you're locked in to pay for that liability for 3, 4, 5 years. And it's the right to use their online software or subscription.
Any other questions? Please continue.
All right. So here's a good graph that shows your revenues versus your expenses next to each other. Your green line is your net position, which is basically your assets less your liabilities, what you owe and what you own. And so the green line shows your net position of the county as it continues to increase. Now, moving into the business type activities, this is outside of the governmental activities, and this is your business type activities is your landfill, your parks, your GVID, and other types of they act more like businesses because they charge a fee for the service, and so it's not really grant or taxes based, and so we kind of separate the reporting for that because they follow slightly different rules. So on the business type activities, your current and other assets increased $2.3 million, and most of that's because it's an increase of cash of $2.8 million. That's offset by accounts receivable and interest receivable. The capital assets decreased because mostly tied to the depreciation expense was greater than the purchase or additions of capital assets. On the income statement side, the revenues and expenses of these business type activities, overall, the revenues increased $150,000. Most of that's tied to contributions. There were some significant contributions in 2024 of about $560,000. And so you didn't receive that this year. And so that's mostly your charges for services of providing these services, what you charge the public for it. Slightly larger than that contribution decrease. And so the overall, your revenues increased $150,000. On the expense side, the major change was your recreation expenses decreased just under $700,000. And that was just because of a decrease in payroll and benefits throughout the year for those funds. As we move outside of the financial statements, there's another topic that we are required to talk about directly with the board. We have a communication that we are required to, as audit standards require us to talk to the board directly. Your accounting policies are found in note 1 of the financial statements. I am happy to state that we had no difficulties in performing the 2025 audit, working with Luke and Eddie and the finance team. It was very responsive anytime we asked for questions and to get us information, and we were very happy to work with the county and the information we received as we went through the process. We are required to let you know if we had any corrected misstatements or number changes to the financial statements, which I'm happy to state again. Your team does a great job, and we didn't have any corrections to the financial statements during the year. We did have the management sign a representation letter. This is an annual piece of the audit. It's the last piece that kind of the management tells us that the information they provided is accurate and that the information they provided is complete, and they're not basically withholding anything from us. It's a fairly lengthy letter. If you want to see it, I'm sure the finance team can get it to you. We did have, like I mentioned, we had 2 audit findings as part of the financial statements. Over the last several years, there's been an increase in our focus on IT. As IT has been a bigger risk in the financial world. If you've seen any of the things out there when things get hacked in the finances, if there's anything that happens in finances, in IT, it really causes a havoc within the organization. So we've put audit standards have required us to look a lot deeper into IT, and I'm sure your IT folks can tell you that we have done that. It's several weeks that we work with them to go through a ton of information within the county. So both of these are related to IT. They are repeats from prior year. They are getting smaller of the types of findings that they are, but they both still relate to IT. The first one being related to the documenting overall risk assessment policy and having an overall risk assessment within the county. And I know this has been discussed and talked about and trying to work through making that happen. So it just hasn't happened quite yet. And then the second finding relates to logical access and protection of the organization, and also anytime the documentation the IT team goes through and changing and modifying anything within the IT system, IT finances of the IT systems within the county. We've worked closely with IT. They're aware of both of these items, and I know there's a plan to help mitigate and decrease these going forward.
Supervisor Martin, thank you.
Yes. Can you tell me, that last statement I find kind of alarming. In addition, the county is not following its policies regarding security and change management?
So what that relates to is the county has a very, very rigid and documented policy of any time a ticket gets put into IT, every step that ticket is supposed to follow. And as we tested the tickets that were throughout the fiscal year that we audited, we came across a handful of tickets that one step of approval was either missing or not documented very well. The rest of the process was fine. It's just the very rigid policy that the county's IT policy states of every step that it's supposed to follow. There's just a handful of steps that were not followed and a handful of tickets.
Any other questions?
I appreciate the time to be here this afternoon and present you the June 30, 2025 audit.
Thank you, sir. I want to say thank you to Director Mornian, obviously, and our financial services staff for running a tight ship. Thank you for all that you guys do. We appreciate it. Does this require an action from the board? No, just information. Okay. The other item that we've been requested to move up is item number 44. This is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing at item number 44. Discussion and possible action regarding approve the adoption of BOS Resolution 2026-028, a request for a special use permit for assessor's parcel number 333-42-017 to allow for a wireless communication facility with a 95-foot tower, in an AR 36A agricultural residential 36-acre minimum lot size zone, as required by court order in the Val Vista vicinity, Mojave County, Arizona. This item was continued from the January 20th, 2026 meeting to allow staff to procure a radio frequency site engineer for consulting services. We have nobody that has signed up to speak on item number 44. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak during the public hearing on item number 44? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing on item number 44. Director Holdry, you want to come up? Morning.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity. We were able to, with the help of procurement, find a radio frequency engineer consultant that is online with us today. I believe it's Terragence. They do have a presentation and the information that they were able to provide for a report and presentation if you'd allow them.
I'll allow it. Let's go. We queue up that presentation. Is this the presentation from the RF frequency engineer? Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. And I believe they are on Teams as well to present.
Sure. Yeah, let's bring them up and have that presentation if we could.
Sorry, folks, this is Charlie Fialdo with Intelligence. We've got Christian Rufert as well, who would be presenting. I'll share the presentation now, and if we can get Christian unmuted, I'm checking with him now.
Okay. Do we have a presentation to throw up onto the screen for everybody to see?
I think it would be.
I'm trying to see if I can share that now.
I think they have the presentation and they would share it with the team.
Here we go.
Wait for our information technology folks. There we go. Oh, there's the Auditor General. Yeah. Are we having some difficulties getting this up?
These folks in our Christian is currently sharing. We've got Alex on there. Is the cover sheet of the report available to everyone here?
Sir, could you speak a little bit clearer into whatever device you're using? It's a little jumbled.
Just checking to see if you're able to see this cover page of the report now.
No, we can't see anything right now. Maybe the IT folks in the back booth. Is there a way to? Are they linking up via Teams? Is that what's going on?
Yes, it is.
Can the IT folks put the presentation up if we have it? Well, we don't see the report. I think all of our board members have seen that report and they've read through it. Perhaps you just want to give it a general overview. We don't see anything on our screen, so. Director Hultree, what's the name of the gentleman that's on this?
I believe his name is Christian.
You want to guide him through and
Yeah.
just give an overview of this report so we don't waste everybody else's time?
Right. Is somebody from Terrigens, could they respond real quick? Christian, maybe?
Christian was just sharing his screen. I was able to see it on my end, folks. This is Charlie. Were you able to see anything on your end?
We're not able to see it on our end, but if you guys could just go through the presentation and the report and your findings and present that to the board. I believe our board does have a copy of the report that you guys provided. So it looks like
yes, that's
probably
correct.
having some technical difficulties. If you wanted to just go through your presentation and findings, that would be fine.
Okay, and let me see if I'm able to. Christian is on the line. He's I don't know if you can, if anybody in IT, he's got his video on now, but his microphone. Oh, here we go. We got you, Christian.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Does everybody hear me? Okay, all right, great.
There we go.
Okay, I will. Fantastic. And I will now try to share. The screen sharing is not working, so I will try to give
Actually, the
a
screen
verbal.
is working now. We can see you, sir. So if you have a presentation, you can go ahead and throw that up.
Yes, but the screen share button seems to have been grayed out on my screen, so I am unable to share.
IT, can you give him permission to share his screen, please?
Still great.
Sir, if you want to go ahead and proceed with your overview, we would appreciate it.
Okay, all right. So we did an analysis of the documentation provided, which required a bit of puzzling on the provided data. What we saw was that there was a discussion. The discussion for the cell tower was actually related to two kinds of towers. One was a traditional cell tower that was going to be erected in the Hackberry area, which is, if you guys know where that is, I can show it on the map, but it's basically in that bend in Highway 66. There is going to be, in the plan seems to indicate the erection of a traditional cell tower to provide coverage in that bend of the road. But that cell tower needs to be provided by another tower, which would be erected in the Antares area, which is the top of that bend. And that tower would function as a microwave relay tower for the Hackberry Tower. So let me just try and share my screen. Let's do this. Does anybody see the screen with the map that I'm zooming in and out of?
No, sir.
Okay, then I will continue my, let me just try stop sharing and try again. Says that I am sharing, but it's not coming up. Okay, I will try and continue my verbal update. Let me just get to the actual report on. So, as I said, a tower being erected in the Hackberry area to provide coverage in that bend, with then a microwave relay tower in the Antares area, which would then relay a microwave signal back to the Kingman area. So the tower that's going to be erected in the Antares area is not providing any mobile coverage in that location, at least not according to the documentation provided to us. It's simply a microwave relay tower. And microwave is, think of it as a kind of like invisible wire in the air. So it's not radiating onto any area. It's an invisible wire in the air to provide what is called backhaul connectivity. The backhaul connectivity is the equivalent of the, if you have a Wi-Fi router, you have to plug it in eventually into a fixed broadband connection. So that's what this tower in the Antares region is about. It's a microwave backhaul. It's not a cellular coverage tower. We understand that the controversy or the issues were related to the tower in the Antares location, not in the Hackberry location. So we're not going to discuss the ins and outs of the Hackberry location, but we're going to focus on that Antares location. So, as we said, the Antares tower is a microwave tower. And microwave is a backhaul technology that you use if fiber connectivity is not available. Fiber connectivity is the preferred way of providing backhaul because it provides higher capacity and higher quality. So what we do, first of all, is to ascertain if there is alternative fiber available. We looked at various data sources. There is no obvious fiber available. There is fiber footprint in the Kingman area, and there's also fiber running along the Highway 40, the Purple Heart Trail that runs east-west from Kingman. But at the location where we are looking at, so in Hackberry and Antares, there does not seem to be any obvious fiber availability. That being said, we do know that in that road, I think there's the old Route 66, There is a road and there's also a train line that runs in parallel. And what we see along that train line, consulting some other sources, we have seen a number of towers that are present along the railway. As far as we can ascertain from Google Street View, these are not necessarily telecom towers, but putting 1 and 2 together, i.e. there are towers. These towers are operated by independent tower companies, and the fact that railways usually have fiber alongside of them, we would think that there would be a good opportunity to look for fiber along that railway, be it via the railway company or via the tower companies that have locations in there. So if you would have that fiber, you don't need that tower in the Antares region, and that would solve the problem. And so, one of the strong options that we would look at or recommend looking at is to contact those tower companies and say if they have any knowledge of fiber availability along the railway that goes there. Just go back. So that's the fiber availability. A third option would be to look for, so if you look at the Hackberry area that's in the bend of the old Route 66, if you go pretty much a hard south, you would come to Highway 40 that runs east-west. And there is kind of like, I think it's a kind of dirt road that runs along there. And in theory, you could dig a fiber or lay a fiber there and then connect to the fiber that runs east-west along Highway 40. However, that would be about a 25-kilometer dig, which is about 16 miles, which is likely to be very costly, and therefore, it's unlikely to be economically justifiable. So we didn't think that was very feasible. So that kind of gets us to like the different fiber alternatives. So either going via the railroad or digging south. The railroad, in our opinion, has the highest success. Digging south is theoretically possible, but not financially. So what are the alternatives in terms of microwave? Again, if we looked on the map and based on the data that was accessible in the top of the bend or just on the side of the bend along the railway, we noticed that there is a microwave tower there present. So we looked at whether that microwave tower could be used as an alternative, and we came to the conclusion that it isn't, and that's mainly because I think there's a mountain range or a hill range called Peacock Hill or something along those lines, and that kind of creates an elevation that is not possible by the microwave link. So that's not really an option. The next option that we looked at is a set of daisy-chained towers along the railway. So instead of making this big jump from the Hackberry location to the Antares location, would it be possible to daisy chain along a number of towers along the railroad? We think that could be theoretically possible, but again, it would be quite costly, and I'm not sure if it would be acceptable for people that there would be additional towers being built. But that's not for us to judge. The next alternative that we looked at is that when we look closer to the Antares region, we noticed that in the area there is what is identified on Google Maps as Fire District Station 36, which has a significant tower built next to it. We couldn't ascertain the height from the images on Google Street View. But there definitely is a tower, and the location of the tower is pretty much smack bang in the locations where the consultants indicated that they wanted to build some. So a possible alternative would be, in our opinion, to go to the fire service and pay them a bit of money and just strengthen that tower, maybe heighten it and build something up there. I don't know how that sits in other dimensions, but at first sight, that tower is in precisely the right location. Make it a bit higher, make it a bit stronger. That would solve the problem for everybody. So we rated that as a highly feasible solution. We also analyzed that in terms of line of sight, and everything was possible. Then the next alternative that we considered was we noticed that there is a power line running not quite parallel, but in the same angle and the same direction as the railroad. It kind of moves, whereas the railroad and the road bend towards the southwest, northwest rather. The power line runs almost northwest. And so we looked at whether it would be possible to use one of the pylons as a microwave relay station and kind of, thereby use the existing infrastructure. The challenge that you have with that scenario is that the gap between the mountains around Hackberry is actually quite narrow. And so to get a clean line of sight from the Hackberry site to any of those pylons beyond the curve of the road is actually quite impossible due to the geography of the place. You kind of bump into terrain elevations that block the microwave, and therefore that's really not a possibility. The last item that we looked at is again looking at the southern route running along that dirt road from Hackberry running south towards Highway 40, where we discussed previously of putting fiber there. That would be very expensive, but we reckon that it would be possible to put a microwave backhaul along that way and then connect to the network that runs around Highway 40. We also noticed that the ground kind of elevates and then goes down. It goes up a hill or an incline and then comes down again. But at the top of that hill runs a power line as well. So we estimated that it would be possible to bridge that height if you deployed a microwave relay station at the highest, at the point of where that power line runs, and basically use one of the pylons as to mount your microwave dish on. That also has its issues, right? Installing equipment on an electricity pylon is not a simple thing. Has all kinds of safety and construction considerations, but in theory it could be feasible. So that's also an option. We assembled all those different options in the table at the end of the document. We gave them a color coding whereby we said red is, not realistically possible. Green seems very possible, and kind of orange is possibly possible, if you like, the kind of medium score. These are to a certain extent subjective scores, right? They are assessments, but they give you a sense of framing the ideas. And so, as a very quick rundown, we think that connecting to the existing tower at the fire station would be the easiest and most elegant solution, and then closely followed by looking for fiber along the railway line, not necessarily by talking to the railway line, but talking to the tower companies that control towers along those railways. And then all the other options have various degrees of problems and things that make it difficult that are summarized in that table. And that's the conclusion of our report. Oh, the screen is there. I missed that. Does that answer the question, or does anybody have any comments?
Thank you for your report. I would open it up to the board if they have either questions to our RF engineer consultant or to the applicant. Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to ask the applicant a question.
We get the applicant to come up to the podium, please. Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning.
Supervisors. My name's Stephen Kennedy. I'm a radio frequency engineering consultant representing Sun State, Pinnacle, and Verizon. I've got 36 years experience designing wireless networks, so I did have some statements, but if there are questions, I will answer them.
You want to hear your statements first, or would you like to ask the question?
Let me go ahead and ask the question. I'm queued up to do it. Sir, I'm curious, did your firm look at the fire station location?
So, a couple of things about the fire station. So, one thing, this site, as part of the application package, this was an RF justification providing that this site would provide mobile services too. So just like the other site, it would be providing mobile stuff. We did look at the fire station, and the one thing about it, instead of a 195-foot tower, we're going to be at probably about a 240-foot tower on the fire station, which means it's going to have to be lighted and painted and a generator installed. So the existing structure would not work. It would be, in order to make the microwave path, we would have to have approximately a 240-foot tall tower.
Is there no grid power at that fire station?
Grid power?
You said you were going to have to put a generator in. I would think that there'd
anytime
be
the FAA instructions or the FAA regulates airspace, anytime you have a tower that exceeds 200 feet, it has to be lighted. And part of that lighting system has to be a backup generator.
Understood. So even with your other tower sitting up on a hill that didn't, since it didn't exceed that limit, it wasn't required to be lit?
Yes, sir. It's not required to be lit. And I go back to page 6 of the jurisdictional RF consultant statements. It said, we have found no information in the documentation, page 6, next to last paragraph. No information in the documentation indicating the entire site will be used for provide mobile coverage. It will provide mobile coverage as part of the application package. And then the jurisdictional RF consultant did agree with me that coverage is bad. So that site, that tower that is the proposed site, is a shorter site, does not require to be lit, and does not require a generator, and is not in the middle of a bunch of houses.
What would be the problem providing cell service from the fire station location?
There would not be a problem providing service from the fire station location. The tower would be taller. It would not meet your setbacks in your code, and it would have to be lit and painted.
So when you have a cell tower location, is that required to have a generator also?
The proposed tower of 195 foot does not require an RF generator.
Interesting. Did you guys investigate if there's any fiber along the railroad?
I did not specifically, but Chad can speak to
something
that.
the our consultant brought up.
Hello, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Chad Ward, representing Pinnacle Consulting. Verizon, as a general rule of thumb, before they move to a microwave solution, which is a less preferred solution, puts out and does research on fiber availability in a given area, and they adjust, they basically look at like, where is it at? How much is going to cost to get there? There's no fiber solutions available in this area at the Hackberry site, which is, the connection link to the Antares site.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Well, I have you both at the podium. In the report that RF engineer did, the feasible alternatives seem to be 3, 2, and 5. So we talked a little bit about alternative 3, which says utilize existing tower located on the premises of Northern Arizona Fire District Station 36. You said that, and I don't know exactly the distance between the proposed site that you all are proposing in Antares. Is it 2 miles, 3 miles away? It's my district. It's relatively flat out there. I don't see any mountain ranges between
Correct.
the two
So
sites,
the,
so I don't understand the difference between the 195-foot height of what you're proposing, and if you move it just 3 miles or whatever it is to the south to the fire district, why it all of a sudden has to be 240-something feet?
So it becomes two things. One becomes line of sight between the Antares site and the Hackberry site, where the antennas have to be able to see each other. So in order to do that, as you move south, the terrain changes and goes lower. That, as well as some peaks, come into play. So when you go between the two sites, there has to be a higher so they can see each other and that connection can be made. The proposed site is farther north in a higher elevation area and has a direct path, line of sight, just like your eyes and my eyes are looking at each other right now. There's a connection between that one because it's at a higher elevation and it's able to do it based upon where it is in relation to the Hackberry site.
How many miles distance is it?
Are you asking between the fire station and the current application?
Yes, sir.
Be 1.5 to 2 miles, I think, is the distance between the two.
So you're saying that just in that distance, that there's an elevation change, and that the line of sight on the Peacock Mountains changes so much that it raises the. I'd like to ask our independent consultant about that myself, but
okay. I can make the statement that the terrain changes between the proposed and the fire station, as well as there's significant terrain changes between the sites the farther south you go because of the peaks.
You're on record for that, and I'll come back to our RF engineer on that. Let me ask you about alternative number 2. Under microwave, it says daisy chain along the railway. We talked about that. Did your company reach out to the BNSF?
We did, and we did not get any response. And also note that a microwave daisy chain does not address the significant gap in coverage that this proposed site will also address.
Okay. And then alternative number 5, backhaul microwave in the southern direction and connect to the network along Highway 40. Did you evaluate that alternative?
We did, but that also does not address the significant gap in coverage at the Antares area.
And then my last question is, I'm not sure if you follow the Arizona BEAD grant, rural broadband investments that have been made, but Mojave County actually had a provider that it's called WECOM, one of the largest BEAD grant awards in the state of Arizona for rural. That's their service territory, and I do know that they are planning on installing fiber along that corridor. My question to you is, have you reached out to WECOM Fiber to talk about the status of that and when that would be going in, if there's any partnership opportunities with them?
At this time, we have not reached out to the fiber provider as that has been a developing, ongoing project. It's certainly something we could look at in the future, but at this point, it's not under construction and it's not there. This application was submitted some time ago, and at this point, we've been delayed due to the hearing process with Mojave County.
Yeah, sorry about that. Process matters, though, to everybody that lives here.
Understood.
Yep. Would it be possible to reach out to them? Because I think that they have to have those B grants, they have to have those spent and have to have projects constructed on a certain timeline.
You certainly will. I at this moment do not know that Verizon has a contract with them. Obviously, those matter as well. But we certainly can reach out to them, but I do not see a need for it to hold up a decision on this current project at this hearing.
Okay. I have one question do we still have our RF engineer? Thank you, gentlemen. If we have any other questions, we'll play back up. Maybe the other, actually, let me, before you leave, do any of the other supervisors have questions? No? Okay, we'll call you up if we have other questions. Do we have the RF frequency engineer on the line still?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, thank you, sir. So we heard testimony from the applicant on specifically, it was alternative 3 in your report, utilizing the existing tower located on the premises of Northern Arizona Fire District Station number 36, so the distance in their testimony, I think what they said was about 1.5 miles north of the fire district. And they're saying because of the fact that within that 1.5 miles, that the line of sight over the Peacock or around the Peacock Mountains and the elevation change is going to necessitate a 195-foot tower to go to over 240-foot tower, and for a generator to be put on and for it to be painted and lit. What is your assessment of that, just from an independent?
Okay, do you guys see my screen share or not?
We see it,
okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, so here, as far as we could see from the documentation, so these two purple dots indicate their preferred location. I don't know the exact scale of the map, but I think this is their preferred location, the one to the north. And I would say that that probably looks like, 1 or 2 miles away. This is the existing fire station location. And this is the analysis of the terrain as we see it from satellite data. So we have not visited the site, right? This is all from terrain data that we that is public source. According to that data, that is, looking at the data as it is presented to us, not having visited the site, it did indicate that it would be possible to cover those two locations with a 60 meters, i.e. roughly 190-foot tower. So the fire station is significantly lower than the Hackberry site, but running 190-foot tower on each side, according to this data, should be possible, right? But we always have to be a little bit careful. We did not visit the site. We just did this on publicly available ground elevation data.
Okay, appreciate that. So it is noted in your report, you did look at this, and you're saying that you think 195 or 90-foot tower would suffice at the fire station and at the proposed site of the applicant.
Based on the data based on the data available to us, not having done an on-site survey.
Are you aware of on the data that you have why a tower would, if you move it 1.5 miles to the south, why it would have to move from 95-foot tower to over 240?
Well, so if I'm sharing my screen, right? So the challenge that you have, looking at this, so this is okay. Just going to talk a little bit through this. All right. So this blue dot here is the Hackberry site, and you can see that's on the elevated ground, and there is actually quite a narrow gap that you have to squeeze through here, and this is quite a bit lower. I personally can't see why, if these two sites seem to be reasonable, why that one would have to have such a jump in height. I can't see the reason, but, as I said, we work off the satellite data of that location. There might be on the ground reasons why that is, why we don't have things. But personally, I don't see the reason.
Thank you. To the applicant, I understand that the process can be annoying sometimes, but we have a lot of surrounding property owners that really aren't fans of seeing a new tower go up there. So we have some conflicting information, not saying who's right or who's wrong, but we have our RF engineer that's saying that based upon all the satellite imagery and what they have, that they think it should work. They don't understand why it would go up to 240 something feet.
So,
So if anything, I mean, this is my district. I would ask for, sorry to propose or additional delay, but I mean, I'd like to really get to the bottom of this to see if a 195-foot tower. I mean, I want our RF engineer to dig more into this to see if it's really feasible, technically feasible, and defendable. You know, in any sort of a venue that we have to go into.
So we did resubmit. We had a microwave path study ran, which is basically a desktop study. That's your initial, will this pass from a, desktop study? Once that, if it does pass, you would actually have to do a formal line of sight where they actually go up and they flash both sides with technology to make sure that they can actually see each other. So I believe this was submitted back to the county last week, a copy of this. If you did not get it, I'm happy to share it with you or make sure that you got it. It does show that the minimum microwave path needs to be, height on the other side needs to be a minimum of 220 feet, and it may need to be higher depending on the final path study.
Is that information that you could share with the county and that we could share with our independent RF engineer?
Last week, but I'm happy to, however we can get
Director
it.
Holtry, did we receive that information?
Mr. Chair, I do have Matthew Gunderson on the line as well, and he could verify whether or not we received that information.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Sure, Mr. Gunderson, we hear you.
I have not received it. That's not something that I received.
Well, maybe it went into a spam file or something. Is this possible to get a copy of all of your data as far as that study? And I'd like to ask Development Services to have our RF engineer look at that as well and verify it.
Absolutely.
If they can. Supervisor Gould, do you have a question for Director Holtry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Holtry, what are our rules on setbacks and tower heights?
Mr. Chair, Supervisor Gould, it does depend on whether or not it's zoned commercial or if it's zoned residential. If it's residential, I believe it's 1-for-1. They have to have the same height. The tower would have to fall onto its own property. I think on commercial, it just meets the commercial setbacks that are set forth by the zoning ordinance. And Matt can correct me if I'm wrong.
It's kind of interesting because ham towers can be in a neighborhood that if they fell down, they would hit the next 3 houses. So it's just, I find this a little strange. I don't know if they're probably excluded from whatever federal regulations allow them to be placed.
Yeah,
like
ham
that.
radios they're exempt in our ordinance.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any other additional questions?
And then just to follow up on that, I believe the fire station is zoned AR, which is the same zoning as the current property. And based on the measurements I did, the property's not big enough to meet the 1-to-1 setbacks. And I don't know that we can meet the 300 feet to a residential property.
Have you physically been to the fire station?
I have physically been there, not since this report came out, but that area was investigated, and based on the county maps on measurements from property lines, you cannot meet a 1-to-1 setback for a 190-foot tower, and I do not believe you can meet the 300-foot setback to a residential property to the west.
Would it be possible to send that study to us so that we could have our RF engineer look at that? And then I'd like to ask staff to confirm that. And then also the current site too. I mean, I'd like to know if does that meet the 300-foot setback?
Mr. Chair, the current site does. That's something that we already looked at when we took in the application. As far as the fire station is concerned, we would have to look at that one, make sure that they meet a 300-foot setback from a residence, and if it can meet the setback for just the tower height itself. So we can definitely look at those requirements and send the report to our consultant.
Would it be all right with the applicant if I postpone this for our next meeting to allow that to happen?
Ultimately, it's the county's decision on how they want to proceed. We feel that we've supplied everything from our perspective to show that this site is the least intrusive means to meet the gap in coverage and also provide the fiber microwave connectivity to the other site that was approved by the county.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And then just this morning, our RF engineer obviously doesn't have all the data you have. And so in order to get both RF engineers on the same page, I'd like to have 2 weeks to have them verify your data, if that's okay, to help us out.
Again, it's your decision on how the board wants to proceed. So we'll abide by whatever decision you'd like to make.
All right. I'd like to make a motion that we postpone this to the next meeting to allow that additional.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I just to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Thank you, board. We'll move back to the consent agenda. Items number 4 through 41. Supervisor Lattman, would you like to remove any items from consent?
I have no items to remove.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 25 and 26.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Borelli.
Item number 22, please.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Martin.
Nothing.
And I will add no items. So we're looking for a motion to
Chairman.
approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mr. Chairman.
A
reminder on item 29.
And I will remove item number 29. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, minus items 22, 25, 26, and 29.
So moved.
For that motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? I spirit to have it, do have it. So ordered. Thank you. We'll move to item number 22. Supervisor Borelli.
Yes, Mr. Chair, can we have procurement come up?
Director Acton.
Thank you, ma'am. Here's my question. I know this says here 1-year contract and of course an automatic renewal, but it does say there might be an out unless terminated in writing by either party. My concern is since we have a new CFO coming on board, I don't want to box anybody into something that they're not familiar with or would like to continue with.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Chairman and Supervisor Borelli. Unfortunately, I can't get my laptop up, but if I recall correctly on this one, it was a year-to-year agreement. It does auto-renew just to not make us go through an amendment process. We would sign off on anything related to invoices so long as they stayed within that direct escalation fee. I think this one was with 60 days notice, we could end the agreement. We just locked in up to 5 years total with the pricing. So if the current CFO decided that they wanted to change out of the current ERP system, we would probably need quite a bit of time to do that anyways. That's part of the reason for the competition and practical determination. But we did make sure that there was an option for us to notify and leave the contract. We're not entering into a whole 5-year agreement.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve.
For that motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I spirit to have it, do have it. So ordered. Thank you, board. Move to item number 25. Approve continued utilization of the USGS administration contract number GS 07F141DA law enforcement personnel equivalent awarded to Aardvark, Laverne, California through July 31st, 2036. Provided the GSA exercises all renewal options. Further authorize the procurement director to sign necessary and convenient documents related to purchases. Products and services will be purchased in accordance with the budgeted funds for fiscal year as applicable and are expected to exceed $100,000 over the term of the contract. On behalf of the Sheriff's Office, Supervisor Gould, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was at the request of a constituent that would like to speak.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Armenstein.
Good morning, Supervisors. My question is, don't we...
Name. Oh, we got it. Never mind. Go ahead.
I can wait.
No, I was going to say name and your name.
Oh,
and where you
I'm in
live.
Stanger, Fort Mojave,
Thank you.
a.k.a. the German. My question is, don't we have any companies what sell law enforcement equipment in Arizona? Do we have to go to a failing state? You know, we're spending money, and we should be looking in Arizona first before we go anywhere else. And the closest one, what I know of, is Bowtech in Las Vegas. They have pretty good prices. I bought a few things from them, and their equipment is really good. So I think we should be looking at somewhere else too, not just in California. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking for a motion?
Question for the procurement director. Director, how do we determine how we purchase something like this?
That's a loaded question, Supervisor. Really, I was trying to pull up some data. We buy police personally protective equipment from multiple suppliers. I do think we have a few based in the like Scottsdale, Phoenix area. We have a few based in, I think, Nevada. I could pull that data and share it with the board if you want the full amount. But generally, we have to purchase, if we're going to spend in excess of $10,000 total under a contract, we need to go through a competitive process. We can run that competitive process. In this situation, the federal government ran the competitive process. They've selected multiple vendors. And then we work, in this particular purchase case, with the sheriff's office. They determine what's going to meet their needs as far as personally protective equipment or ammunition or anything in that manner. And then what we do is we look for, is there a contracted service provider available, or if there's a particular type of thing that they need and there's not a cooperative contract available, we would work with them to identify the scope of what it is that they need, and we would go out to bid for it. So this particular item, the county has used Aardvark for a long time. Each time they make those purchases, they're technically small purchases. They're well within that limit of $10,000 is what we consider you need to have at least one quote for. What we're trying to do is be fully transparent with the board, and any time that we're using a cooperative contract in excess of what would normally be my authority, even though each purchase is smaller, we don't want it to look like we're artificially fragmenting purchases to circumvent the board's approval process. So this is just bringing this item to the board to say that the sheriff's office does use this cooperative contract. In the next year, they are likely to exceed $100,000 total under this one particular contract.
So that's kind of an anti-structuring method then, so that no one's trying to dodge and go underneath the limit so that they don't have to go out to competitive bid.
Yes, absolutely. We actually have it written into our procurement code that you can't artificially divide a procurement to move it to a lower threshold of competition. And so anytime we notice that we're getting close to that threshold, it's been my practice to take it to the board proactively so that I don't have to tell the sheriff's office we can't buy that equipment. We have to wait till a board meeting because now you've spent $99,900 and the board needs to bless it before we move forward.
Sure. And even though we would love to give a preference to a local business, we're still prohibited from, we still have to put it out to competitive bid.
Correct. And in most cases, local preference is either against the law or frowned upon.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Gould, you have, or excuse me, Supervisor Borelli, you have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we have to pay California sales tax?
We are not tax exempt, so we will pay sales tax based on where, I believe, this might be a question for finance. I actually think sales tax is based on where it's received, and so we will pay it to the contractor, but they're going to pay it to the state of Arizona. Right. They have to, if they sell more than a certain amount within the state of Arizona, they are required to register and get a tax license.
Yeah. I don't think we should be paying California sales tax. Thank you.
Yep.
Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Yeah, motion. Second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Thank you, board. Move to item number 26. Approve the award and sign contract number 2026-15 RFP inmate commissary and cash handling payment services to Keefe Commissary Network, Fontana, California, for inmate commissary and cash handling payment services for a 1-year period, commencing August 1st, ending July 31st, 2027. The county having the right at its sole option to renew the contract for additional 1-year periods on behalf of the Sheriff's Office Adult Center. This is a revenue-generating contract at no cost to the county. Supervisor Gould, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was another request from a constituent that would like to speak to the issue.
Thank you. We have Armin Staines. You want to come up to the podium?
And again, I'm in Stangerford, Mojave, aka the German. Again, the question, can't we find anybody in the state of Arizona to work for us and handle the money for the jail? Fair question. I think the money should stay in Arizona, not another state. Then I don't know if you have to pay the company to handle the money, or they take a cut of whatever they get on commissary stuff, whatever. You know, we should be looking in our state. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, and I agree. We want to make sure that we're searching out vendors in Arizona and even more locally inside the county when possible. But here we are. Motion to approve.
You've heard that motion. Do I have a second? For that motion and second, additional discussion, I would say anybody in the audience that wants to help the county to achieve that goal, if you know any companies that are out there, make sure that they're a registered vendor with both Mojave County, all of the cities, the state of Arizona, all of the Arizona entities, so that when there's an opportunity that comes available and we're required to put it out publicly, that they get notice of that and have a chance to compete. Any additional discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? As appear to have it, do have it. So ordered. Thank you, board. Item number 29, approve the NEHA FDA Retail Flexible Funding Model Grant Award in the amount of $8,500 to support the Environmental Health Division's continued alignment with the National Retail Program Standards. Approve the attached fiscal year 26-27 budget with no impact to the County General Fund. Attorney Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was pulled off at the request of the health director. The backup was incorrect, so no action is needed. It's just to prevent it from being approved in the consent approval process.
This item has been pulled, or it needs to be pulled?
It was pulled so that it can go on to the next agenda. The backup is incorrect. It was pulled off, so it wasn't approved in the mass approval.
So no action taken on this?
No action needed.
Okay, very good. That takes us to our public hearings. Do we need an action to?
I don't know.
Illegally, do we need to have a postponement of that item?
You can have a vote to take no action on
That's
it.
probably best. Motion to take no action on item number 29.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Thank you, board. That moves us to our public hearings. First public hearing is item number 42. I'm going to open the public hearing on item number 42. Approve and authorize the chairman to sign on behalf of the board of assignment, on behalf of the board, the assignment of franchise agreement from DS Water Company to Cactus State Utility Operating Company, LLC, a water company located in the unincorporated Desert Springs area of Mojave County. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak during the public hearing on item number 42? We have no one signed up to speak. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing on item number 42. Director Latosky, can you come up and give the board just a general overview?
Good morning, Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board. Staff brings this to the board as a formality. Cactus State Utility has acquired DS Water Company. DS Water has an existing franchise with the county that expires in 2028. We do have a process by which those franchises then would assign to Cactus State, the acquiring company in this case. I do want to point out that Cactus State alone has an existing franchise with the county. Cactus State is in good standing with the county. Their franchise is valid until 2047.
Any questions from the board, or entertain a motion? Supervisor Martin, thank you.
Yes. Where are they currently located? Is it Meadview that Cactus State has?
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Martin, in terms of the Cactus State operations, I don't have the specifics in terms of where they all operate.
Okay, thank you.
Entertain a motion.
Move to approve item 43 is read.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? None, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed? I just appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Thank you. We'll move to the public hearing on item number 43. Approve the adoption of resolution number 2026-091, setting the extinguishment for James and Diana Webb, owners of APN 402-14095 in the scenic area, Township 39 North, Range 16 West, in the North 1/2 of Section 2 of the Gila Salt River Meridian, Mojave County, Arizona, parcel plat book 34, page 30, parcel 1, for the purpose of extinguishing approximately 35-foot wide by 300-foot long public easement along South Franny Road for purposes of roadway ingress, egress, and utilities, containing plus or minus 0.226 acres, more or less, particularly described in attachment A, as provided in ARS 28-7214. We don't have anyone signed up to speak during public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on item number 43 during the public hearing? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Any additional discussion, or I'd entertain a motion?
I'll move to approve item 43 as read.
Thank you, Supervisor. Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I just appear to have it, do have it so ordered. Clerk, I think we have somebody that's needs to be silenced. It's on Teams or something like that. I hear some interference. We already did 44. We're going to move to item number 45. Open the public hearing on item number 45. Discussion, possible action, recommend approval of a bingo license for Titans Booster Club, 5695 South Chickasaw Avenue, Fort Mojave, Arizona, and direct the clerk of the board to sign endorsement by local governing body and send it to the Department of Revenue. We have no one signed up to speak during the public hearing on item number 45. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak during the public hearing? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'll open the board for discussion and possible action.
Motion to approve.
For that motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I just appear to have it, do have it so ordered. Thank you, board. We'll move to item number 46. I open the public hearing on item number 46. Approve the revised Mojave County Department of Public Health Nursing Services Division fee schedule and approve the proposed fee schedule effective May 1st, 2026, continued from the April 20th, 2026 BOS agenda. There is no one signed up to speak during public hearing on number 46. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak during the public hearing? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Open up to the board.
Motion. I'd like to make a motion.
Supervisor Gould?
I move that this motion to approve with the removal of the Plan B program.
For that motion. Do I have a second? Motion dies for lack of a second.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould?
There's really no reason for the county health department to provide this. It's an inexpensive over-the-counter medication. People can provide that for themselves if they chose to do it. I believe we were misinformed also at the previous meeting that said that it does not cause an abortion. If you look at the back of the box that I got, the picture of which I got off of Amazon, it does say that it may cause a fertilized egg to not implant in the womb. So take that for what it is, apply your own eschatology. But there's really no reason for the health department to provide an inexpensive over-the-counter medicine. Everybody should pay for their own thing. Thank you.
Director Palmer.
Good morning, Chairman, Board of Supervisors. This service is provided to our patients in the instances of such things as condom failure, and it's only for patients who are working with our nurse practitioner, and our nurse practitioner is here today to speak to it, if you would.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Palmer? Are you going to entertain additional motion?
Motion to approve.
For that motion, second. Any additional discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
I just appear to have it. I do have it so ordered. Thank you, board. We'll move to the public hearing on item number 47. Discussion, possible action, fiscal year 2026 Community Development Block Grant regional account and fiscal year 26-27 CDBG state capital projects, no action required. accept public comments only. We do have one person that is signed up to speak. Kevin Adams?
Morning, Chairman Lingenfelter and members of the board. My name is Kevin Adams. I'm a retired Marine. Hoorah. And a resident of the village of Oak Creek in Yavapai County. I'm here today as a volunteer to share a few words about Real Fun and the Short Creek Valley Bike Skills Park. That's one of the applicants for the Community Development Block Grant funding. Back in October 2018, I started Wheel Fun, which is 7 mountain bikes at Oak Creek School in Cornville. My goal was simple, to give kids a healthy, positive outlet after school. I thought it might be therapeutic for the kids, but what I didn't expect was how meaningful and therapeutic it would be for me as well, especially as someone who is new to the Verde Valley and to Arizona. Since then, Wheel Fun has grown far beyond anything I could have ever imagined. This fall, we'll be operating over 800 mountain bikes across 60 programs in 13 Arizona counties, including 5 growing programs in Mojave County. Along the way, we've also helped build 4 bike skills parks and bring them to life. I truly have the best volunteer job ever. I get to ride bikes with kids. But more importantly, I get to work alongside incredible people across Arizona, and that journey is what brings me here this morning. On behalf of the people of the Short Creek Valley and Colorado City, I want to sincerely thank Tricia Hall, Jamie Bernier, Michael Smith, Bo Helms, Steve Latosky, this board, and everyone who has supported the Short Creek Valley Bike Skills Park. Your commitment to this effort and to securing Community Development Block Grant funding is helping to create something meaningful in a community where not long ago, youth cycling was prohibited. When I last spoke with you in February, we had 3 items to complete with our CDBG application: the Culture and Historic Properties Survey, the recreational lease with the United Effort Plan Trust, and securing our non-CBDG funding. I'm happy to share that all 3 are now complete. The survey's been accepted by the State Historic Preservation Office. The lease has been executed, and due to the generosity of Arizona Complete Health, our matching funds are secured. This project is shovel-ready. This effort has been more than 3 years in the making, and the decision you make today will play a critical role in turning this vision into a reality for the county. The community. Thank you for your time, your support, and your belief in this project.
Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to speak during the public hearing on item number 47? Please.
Golden Shores. If our county is, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have these bikes, but I'm saying we're overwhelmed with expenditures and taxation. So I would request you consider and let them raise money on a donation basis, not our tax dollars. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to close the public hearing. I don't think any action was required on Section A. B, adopt Resolution 2026-087, authorizing the submission of applications for 2026 State Community Development Block Grant Funds, RA, for an estimated $908,586, and SSP account fiscal year 26-27 up to $500,000 per fiscal year, depending on notice of funding applications. Open up to the board for a motion. Supervisor Martin, thank you, sir.
I'd like to have Director Smith come up and tell us exactly what that is.
Morning, Director Smith.
Chairman, members of the board. So the SSP is the State Specialist Project, and that's part of something that Arizona puts out for different counties. It's a competitive process. We actually have put in several years in a row, not several years, but several cycles for this opportunity, and that's when we used the homeowner rehab program to actually facilitate rehabilitation of homes. So that's the program that we've used for that, for the state special project. It's competitive, so they'll put out a NOFA, and you have to go through the process, and then you get scored on that, and depending on what that is, the county then will be scored, and from there they can move forward with that process. We did hold the public meeting for that, so we did move that forward, and we did the CDBG, which was a part of this. And these funds could be used for other opportunities as well within the county. If the board of supervisors or the county decide to go that route, what would happen is those funds would have to go through another public hearing. Depending on the NOFA, how we would score, we would then bring that back to the board, and they'd have that opportunity.
In regards to that, the Dolan Springs Community Center, where does that fall under this, or does that fall under the other A?
Chairman, member of the board, Supervisor Martin, that does not fall within the CDBG part of this. That's separate. So yes, that's separate.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Gould, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, so this is the one is homes only?
This is the homeowner rehabilitation program.
Okay.
Owner-occupied.
This is not the one, I believe one of these you can do some other things in low income areas. I don't know if this is that one or not. One of these, there's more that can be done than just the home rehabilitation.
Owner-occupied home rehabilitation, yes. Chairman, Supervisor, Chairman, Supervisor. So the SSP, so this one, yes, you can do other projects with that funding through this project, but for the owner-occupied rehab program, right, that is for the low income, for that part of it. But the SSP, the state special project, is separate from those.
And I think it's somewhat confusing because we often do the homeowner rehabilitation with one of the other funds too, so it's somewhat becomes confusing, at least in my own mind. I can't speak for other people, but I get confused.
Chairman, Supervisor Gould, that is correct, and it is because in part of the process is sometimes the NOFA will come out, sometimes it won't. And last year there wasn't one for the state special project, but moving forward, hopefully this year there could be opportunity for two, so we put in for that opportunity, and it's competitive, so that just because you put in for it doesn't mean you necessarily will get it.
Sure, good point. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion to adopt Resolution 2026-087.
Motion to approve.
Second.
For that motion, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. That was our last public hearing. We've already done number 48. We're going to move to number 49. Discussion possible action. Receive advice from the board's attorneys related to risk analysis on the following items. We do have one member of the public that signed up to speak on this. I'm going to bring him up. Scotty McClure.
Scotty, go ahead. When are we going to get done with this dog and pony show that Letman keeps bringing up? Why can't you fix this thing? You had some people earlier that auditors, apparently number 48, I believe. Yeah, you had an annual report. What's the problem with all these reports we're not getting still a year later that Letman's brought this up? Some of the problem is the person that's running this so-called board. They sit in a circle and you can't see their names. You don't know who in the hell's talking. They won't let you call to the public. We're not allowed to say anything. You sit over there in the corner. There's something wrong with this dog and pony show, and I'm sick of it. I don't know. I've given up on this crap.
Supervisor Letman, thank you.
Scotty, I share your concerns about the operation of the Mojave County Airport Authority. So today we're going to discuss some of those items in open because there have been concerns raised about the transparency of this board discussing what's going on at MCAA. And so I think the best thing to do is bring it right out in public and let you know as members of the public what our concerns are and what steps can be taken to fix this. So there is clear risk involved, for the county in the operation of the Laughlin Bullhead International Airport. And I'm going to ask, we have several items to go through, and I'm going to ask Luke if you come on up with Linda, and if you could give us a slide, a brief overview of your recent findings on the financials of the MCAA. And I think you have a summary slide that you may be able to bring that up for us.
Thank you, Chairman. Supervisor Letman. Yes, this is, I put together a slide that you requested. This is off of budget data that was provided by the MCAA. The actuals from FY25 are unaudited numbers.
Still.
So take it with a grain of salt. But as you can see, based on FY25 actuals, the projections for the current year and the proposed budget for next year, you're looking at a 3-year net operating loss of about $900,000.
So could you explain to us what net operating income is and why this would exclude, for instance, FAA grant funding?
So this is just going to be from the operations of the airport itself. So you're going to have your revenues that are coming in and the costs that are associated with operating the airport, and what's left over is going to be your net income.
And what was the source of this information?
We received this from the MCAA.
Okay, so from the airport itself. And let's talk about that fiscal year 27. So if I recap this correctly, in fiscal year 25, they had a plan to make $49,000 and change. They ended up unaudited, because we still don't have that forensic audit back yet, of a loss of $563,000. Then in the current year we're in, if I understand this correctly, we had a budgeted operating income of $129,200, and you're projecting somewhere in the neighborhood of a loss of $417,000. Correct?
Supervisor Letman, I'm not projecting it. That's what the numbers that the airport gave us show.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And I would just one point of clarification. The audit that we're waiting on for FY25 is just their normal annual audit. The forensic audit that we are waiting for the results of, that is a separate audit.
Yeah, but we're still waiting on both.
That is correct. They haven't started their FY25 audit yet that I'm aware of. They just recently went out to bid to get interest from CPA firms to select an auditor.
Well, it's been clear that getting numbers out of this organization has been a struggle, to put it mildly. You don't need to answer that. That was a rhetorical question. So in fiscal year 27, we're looking at a proposed income of $81,668. Now, I'm a firm believer that the best predictor of previous behavior and performance is usually looking at past behavior and performance. 25, we project a income, we have a big loss. 26, we project income, we have potentially even a bigger loss. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. And I'm going to be the first to admit that aviation accounting is not easy. It is complicated, and we don't know everything about FAA rules on accounting that there is. And I'm starting to begin to wonder who does. Okay, so but let's look at that fiscal year 27 of proposed plan of $81,668. So when you prepared a spreadsheet earlier, we're not going to bring it up on the screen, but I have a copy of it here, and I think the other board members do, that basically showed some really extremely large revenue items for fiscal year 27. One had to do, I believe, with car rental commissions. And as I recall, just so the public knows what we were looking at, this was, they had an income, they basically had a plan in 25 of around $225,000 in income off this, and they exceeded that number by about $35,000. Then in the current year we're in, they thought they would have a net income of around $500,000 out of this area, and through the first 9 months of the year, do you recall what the approximate amount was that they had recorded in that revenue line?
Not exact. I believe it was just over 100,000, 150,000.
Yeah, about 160,000 as I recall. So they better have just one hell of a really good fourth quarter in the fiscal year to hit that 500K number. But then we go into the fiscal year 27 plan, and we have a plan of over $800,000 in this category. I hope they make it. I really do, sincerely, because that would really help out their bottom line, to put it mildly. So I'm really, really concerned about the financials of the organization, and of course, we're awaiting some audits. So Mr. Chairman, I had listed 7 or 8 items that I wanted to go through real fast, and Director Latowski may want to come up to the front row. I may have a question for him also, and for our board attorney. The first item I wanted to look at, we've pulled some documents out, was, and Will, this is going to come over to you, was a contract agreement consummated in 2004 between the MCAA and Park West Development LLC. So this is 22 years ago. Hats off to everybody at Park West. They know how to draft an agreement. Let me tell you, let me give you some highlights of what's in this agreement from 22 years ago. You correct me if I say something wrong. So we had thought they were getting perhaps 10%, commission on those sublease payments. Turns out they're getting 30% of the excess revenue of those sublease payments. Now, excess revenue deserves some scrutiny. There's money that comes out before the excess revenue is left there. But would that be a correct statement, that they were getting 30%?
Correct.
And the term of this agreement, as I understand it, looking at the contract, is they get the 30% in perpetuity. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that means it doesn't stop. Now, the last time I checked, when I leased land or a building for my former business, the leasing agent got a commission and then waved goodbye. Not these leasing arrangers. So, and again, by the way, we should note that they're offering a master development plan, and that's important to understand. But here comes a couple of kickers. In 2004, this is why they drafted a really excellent agreement to benefit them. And they're good people, by the way. They're smart. But Home Depot and Carl's Jr.'s contracts had already been agreed to before Park West Development came on board. I believe so, correct?
They were already... Park West may have helped them move in, but they predated the agreement.
Predated Park West. They get 10% of those agreements, too. Which is just baffling. Why we would do something like this. So they get that in perpetuity. In January, you would think this might come to an end. In January 2025, so that's the same month all of us were sworn in as up here on the Board of Supervisors, MCAA extended this agreement for 3 years. And I think there was a comment a while back about did they end the in perpetuity component of it, and I don't believe they did.
They didn't end the lease payment in perpetuity. They ended the contract extension into perpetuity. So now there is a definitive end date of the contract.
So the contract, we have 19 more months to put up with this. And Chairman, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion on this one, if we may, before we get to item B. So I'm going to make, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion instructing MCA directors Latowski and Green to request that the MCA board develop a report analyzing the agreement with Park West Development LLC, comparing the financial and liability components of the agreement in comparison with similar development agreements among other public and private agencies in the state of Arizona, and that the resulting report be provided to this Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Supervisor. You've heard that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any additional discussion? I would note, after looking at that agreement, not only do they take 30% net of the net, but they get to decide what the net is, because they were given wide leeway to basically write off all of their other expenses, and then they get to decide what the net is, and then they take 30% off of that number. So it's pretty
good for their negotiators. They did a good job.
We do have a motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? I just appear to have it. Do have it so ordered. Please continue.
So moving on to item B, I don't know if this needs to come from Linda or Luke, but could we get the current status of the forensic audit that we have been waiting months for?
Chairman, Supervisor Letman, last week had a meeting with the MCAA board president and the airport director, Mr. Scheller, and inquired about this item, was told that the forensic audit should be complete on May 20th.
Okay. Well, we'll see if it gets here on the 20th, but I'm not going to wait. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion instructing MCAA directors Latowski and Green to request that the MCAA board establish a deadline for the completion of the pending forensic audit, and once completed, share the audit with this board of supervisors. Furthermore, they are requested that the MCAA develop an operational plan to address any issues of financial concern raised through the forensic audit within 60 days of the receipt of the forensic audit. The operational plan should be provided to this board of supervisors.
For that motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered.
If we can move on to item C, my favorite, which is the purchase of the FBO fixed-based operation from Signature Aviation. So we're able to finally get our hands on a copy of the contract between Signature Aviation and the Mojave County Airport Authority. Here's the key points that you would want to know from this contract. Mr. Davis, please correct me if I say something wrong. The contract's consummated in the fall of 2024, and it purchases the FBO from Signature Aviation for $1.4 million and change. Inside the agreement, there is no seller's warranty that I could find. Would that be correct? Correct, okay. So that means Signature Aviation, unlike when you buy a house, you would normally have an inspection done. Okay, I don't think an inspection was done here. Okay, we certainly can't find one. And there is no seller's warranty. Signature Aviation may be off the hook. Why would they be off the hook? Because in May 2025, this board, or Mr. Elters, the county manager at that time, received a very famous email from Bill Osborne, the chairman, the president of the MCAA board, where he stated that they had, and we were questioning this agreement already, where he stated that they had recently discovered that the fuel farm failed a 2017 audit where it was determined that the thickness of the walls in those tanks was insufficient. It was at 25%. So what is that going to cost the MCAA to fix? Try $3.5 million. And we've never gotten a straight answer from the airport on whether or not an inspection was done by MCAA of those tanks. We did hear something like this when we finally pressed for an answer, and that was, well, we kind of knew there were problems with the fuel tanks, okay? And we were getting these fuel tanks at a very good price. My point would be this. What organization, what corporation, and we think they're a nonprofit corporation, we'll discuss that in a sec, what kind of corporation makes a $1.42 million purchase, knows that it needs repairs, and doesn't have the financing lined up in advance to do those repairs? That's exactly what has happened. So we have a $3.5 million problem on our hands, okay? It's their hands right now. And that is extremely disturbing that we would execute this kind of agreement. And I'm telling you, this is very worrisome. Those fuel tanks have to be in the appropriate shape in order for airplanes to take off and land if they wish to refuel. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion on item 49C, instructing MCAA directors Latowski and Green to request that the MCAA board provide an analysis of the contract purchase agreement with Signature Aviation, the fixed base operator, that provides information on the financial implications, inclusive of revenues and expenses of the agreement upon MCAA over the term of the agreement. Particular attention should be given to the defective condition of the fuel farm at the time of purchase. This analysis will be in the form of a report that should be presented to this board of supervisors.
Board, you've heard that motion. We do have a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
On item D, which segues into this, I don't know if any of the two directors, if Director Lutowski, you can give us an update. Do we have any status update on the design and the financing of the fuel farm replacement that you're aware of?
Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board, Supervisor Letman, the Mojave County Airport Authority Board of Directors did take action on this item at a meeting, I believe, in February. Since then, and I actually provided Airport Director Scheller some guidance in terms of trying to pursue financing for what is a wholesale replacement of the fuel farm, and we have not received an update on the progress of the construction side of pursuing this fuel farm replacement.
Okay, so the design is moving along.
I believe the design is virtually complete, but what needs to happen now is the steps towards financing as well as the acquisition of certain fuel farm components. There was some inclination or some installation of the computer. There's a computer dispensing system. I believe that it was like an $80,000 item. I think that is under procurement, but I just don't know the status, if that was actually ever executed or moving along.
Okay, but so far, the airport authority has made no arrangement of any kind for a $3.5 million financing package. I'm just telling you, looking at that slide that we saw earlier, I wouldn't be the bank that loans them $3.5 million with those kind of net losses going on. That would be alarming to me. So, I mean, I guess they could hope for an FAA grant on a wing and prayer.
I voiced that very concern. I provided certain guidance to the airport director, and I believe I commented that to the board. I just haven't heard any action.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion on item 49D, instructing MCAA directors Lutowski and Green to request that the MCAA board provide an analysis regarding the financial plan for the design and financing of the fuel farm replacement over the projected operational life of the farm and the potential plan to generate the necessary funds for the replacement after the useful life period. The analysis should be in the form of report presented to this Board of Supervisors.
Second. For that motion, second, any additional discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Please proceed.
Okay, on item E, review the status and liability of the Mojave County as the airport sponsor of a federally obligated airport. I'm going to defer to our attorney, 2 seats to my left. Where are we at?
Members of the board, in 2009, the Board of Supervisors in a lease amendment to the Mojave County Airport Authority leases, both leases, delegated lease sponsorship authority and liability to the MCAA for the acceptance of state and federal grants. They did not transfer the status of sponsor, but the ability for them to go out and transfer the responsibility and then liability to the MCAA. Should anything happen with any of the assurances of the FAA or a state grant and the FAA were to come back on us, we would then be able to turn to the MCAA and either add them as a party or sue them to recover any fines plus attorney's fees for anything that we would have otherwise had to incur. So they are currently taking the liability, but our name is on the paper. Currently, the FAA office in Phoenix has paused giving grants to the MCAA until they have a better understanding about what the situation is. The FAA is very cautious. They don't like to intervene when there's dust in the air. The MCAA attorneys, with myself copied on the email, sent that lease amendment from 2009 to the Phoenix office. The Phoenix office is relatively new. It doesn't have a lot of paperwork. Previously, this was done out of the LA office, and we're waiting to hear back from them if they accept that paperwork or not. So the bottom line is we are the sponsor, but in 2009 we delegated responsibility to them and liability. So if something goes sideways, ultimately the MCAA is on the hook.
Which could mean us. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, on this item, instructing MCAA directors Lutowski and Green to request that the MCAA board provide a report that includes all current and pending FAA grants, showing the grant proceeds and expenses related to grant parameters. They are to direct the MCA to provide such grant report inclusive of any future FAA grant applications where they are applied for. The report of the FAA grant programs should be presented to this Board of Supervisors.
Second.
Heard that motion and second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes,
Finally, on item F, there going to be no motion here, but Will, can you recap for us the basic components of the employment agreement for the airport director, Mr. Scheller?
From a very high level point of view, the airport director is an at-will employee hired by the board of directors and is given a certain compensation for a time, and then I wouldn't say unique, but particular of this agreement contains a number of severance clauses of what happens if the board no longer wishes to employ that particular airport director, and it comes with, I would opine and say, rather favorable severance conditions, unless there's a cause, for cause.
Okay, so he was hired about 3 years ago, and I forget the exact salary. I think it's around the mid-140s range, and that agreement is in effect until terminated, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, that's it for item 49.
I have one more thing, sorry. For
Davis.
Sorry, yes. For C, I just wanted to also note and flag for the board that the signature aviation agreement is read under the laws of the state of Florida and has a venue in Orange County, Florida. So any provisions of the contract are all applicable under Florida law and not Arizona law.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move to item number 50. Discussion, possible action, or you request verification of Mojave County Airport Authority employees' eligibility to participate in the Arizona State Retirement System. Supervisor Letman.
So this is one of the more bizarre components of MCAA is, are their employees, should they be in the Arizona State Retirement System? This is a big financial hit to the MCAA to the tune of around $300,000, as I recall, annually. Arizona State Retirement System pretty much is for employees of the state of Arizona and the counties and other political subdivisions of the state. We're not sure if this airport is a nonprofit agency, corporation, depending on your look at, or a quasi-governmental organization. But I would certainly challenge why they're participating in the Arizona State Retirement System. If we could get them out of ASRS, okay, there is a significant savings, okay, and put them on a 401k like other corporations are on. There's a significant savings, okay, to the airport authority itself. And right now we need every expense savings I believe we can get over at the airport authority. This is a key one. And so I'm going to go ahead and make a motion on item 50, Mr. Chairman, instructing MCA Directors Latowski and Green to request that the MCA board secure appropriate counsel to determine the status of the MCA as a quasi-governmental organization, nonprofit organization, or some other designation, and how that designation impacts the pension obligations and tax filing requirements. This report should be presented to this Board of Supervisors.
Heard that motion and second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Thank you, Board. Move to item number 51, discussion, possible action, direct the county's MCAA board members to request an agenda item to discuss the disposition of APN 213-32-007, 194-acre parcel for the benefit of airport operations or the benefit of Mojave County. Supervisor Letman.
Sure. So as we all know, there's a 194-acre parcel near the control tower of the Laughlin Bullhead International Airport that several years ago, this predates the current administration of the airport, using FAA grant money, they purchased this 194 acres. As I recall living there back then, I believe it was for the concept of potentially having a new terminal at the airport, which is interesting considering this airport averages 15 commercial jet flights a week, something like that. I'm not sure what the premise there. Perhaps they would like to use it to develop for air freight forwarders, supply chain logistics. I don't know. But I do know that the land is sitting there. Okay, 194 acres. And of course, being owned by a nonprofit corporation, the taxpayers of this county and the school districts and the fire districts are collecting no property tax on this land at all. And if I were hunting for revenue, even though the sale of this property may be restricted by that FAA grant, I would certainly evaluate what to do with this 194 acres. Either monetize it by selling it, may not be possible. Okay, lease it out, have it developed, put something on it, and get it moving, okay, because they need revenue up at this airport authority. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion for item 51, instructing MCAA directors Latowski and Green to request that the MCAA board develop an analysis of the property designated as APN 213-32-007, a 194-acre parcel, determining how this property will be utilized as a revenue source, either for capital expense or ongoing operational expense. This analysis should be presented to this Board of Supervisors.
Second.
For that motion, second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. You have it. So ordered. Thank you, Board. Move to item number 52, discussion, possible action regarding amend the Mojave County Board of Supervisors Rules of Order. Attorney Davis, you want to give the board a walkthrough?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the board, this makes a number of changes, mostly to the way that hearings are conducted. I'll just go through them real quick, top to bottom. It changes how motions to continue that are indefinite are handled. If there's a motion to continue to an indefinite period, a non-specific date, and that motion to continue goes past the term of the Board of Supervisors, it would, in effect, kill that motion because there's a whole new board that issued it. In theory, every 4 years, all 5 members could be replaced. So it would act as a pocket veto. But when a motion to continue is given, it really should have a specific time and date. So when it's indefinite, it would kill that. The next one, call to the public, just requires a new box on the forum saying that they have read and understand these rules. And then skipping over the biggest part, then former also limits the time for motion for reconsiderations to be brought back within 14 days. At this time, there's no time limit. That, of course, is subject to a motion to suspend the rules. All of these are subject to a motion to suspend the rules. And then the biggest change is how hearings are conducted, both public hearings and appellate hearings. Public hearings would make it more like a legislative hearing where the public hearing is opened, and then all testimony, including questions, are heard within the confines of the public hearing. It extends the time for the applicant specifically from 3 minutes to 9 minutes so they can give a full presentation. It also allows the board to ask questions during that presentation so that there's more of a flow based on what they've just said. It allows that back and forth. And then everything that is said in the public hearing remains a part of the record. Once that's done and the time for debate has begun, then the public hearing is closed. The board then begins debate, and then whatever happens next happens. The next change is to appellate hearings. The board doesn't see many of those. This makes it, in that instance, the board moves from sitting as a legislative body to what we call quasi-judicial, in that it makes it more of a court hearing arrangement where the appellee, which is almost always a member of the public, will have, I believe, 8 minutes to make their case. And then the county director may respond. It won't be the county attorney unless the other side has an attorney for them, may respond, and then the member of the public gets to rebuttal, and then it goes from there. And that gives then the ability to present a case, put on evidence, et cetera, a response, and then a rebuttal from the member of the public. And that's an overview of the changes, the biggest one being here.
I want to note that this is a project that you've been working on with the clerk's office for quite some time. It is agendized under my name. I just opted to agendize this for the whole board. It's not something that I'm pushing independently.
Yeah, correct. Clerk Google and I have worked closely on it together, and we thank you for putting it on as the chairman of the board.
All right. And with that, I would open it up to the board. I'll call on you. I know. Got your form right here, Mr. Esposito.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
In the future, if we could get additions and strikes in different colors on these, the changes are in light gray, and it's very hard to read the document and figure out which is actually existing language and which changes to the language. The way that we did it in the legislature, I believe additions were in blue and strikes were in red, but it made it a lot easier to run through that document and see what was being changed or added.
I agree with that. Could you note that for future?
Will do, and apologies on that. I will say that in updating the document itself, it was an old document, and so there were a lot of formatting changes that happened, and so you see a lot of changes that have occurred, but those are formatting changes, but other changes, not them.
Yeah, and a lot of it is you just renumbering or relettering because you made a change above that. You have to change everything above that.
Any other comments or
Thank you,
discussion?
Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Martin.
Thank you, sir. I had a question about the call to the public. Is there any consideration or how does one go about asking again that it start at the beginning rather than the end? Because obviously when you have it at the end, somebody has to sit here for hours just to get up and have 3 minutes. I would like to see that where the call to the public was reinstated in the beginning, and that way those folks can say what they got to say, they can leave, and we can go on with our business. So I don't know where that fits in with what you're proposing.
Such an idea would have to come from a member of the board, and it can happen here to make an amendment to affect that change. But that's a policy decision that I leave to the supervisor to determine if they want to do that or not.
Supervisor Martin.
Is that appropriate now? Or are we doing just general?
I will leave that to the chairman if he wants to.
Yeah, you want to bring something at our next meeting or any meeting after that?
Sure.
Then that's great.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Jennifer Esposito?
Thank you, Jennifer Esposito, Kingman. The first question that I would have is how changing things that are basically put off indefinitely would affect things that have been put off indefinitely, because previous incarnation of this board under a motion by Buster Johnson was to indefinitely put off giving the Golden Valley Improvement District its private board, even after people had submitted applications, and Chairman Lingenfelter and other board members had said that they could have a private board, and that was one of his parting shots, was to put that off forever. So, if things have been done that were put off forever, would this cover those or only things going forward? I do like the idea on the public hearings of having the applicant speak first and then have members of the community speak after them. I don't think that it's fair to have members of the community speak and then have the applicant be called back up to make points that the public could not address, because then the public's voice is silent. So I'm good with that. But what I'm really not good with is this concept that members of the public have to check a box saying they've read and understand the rules of order, because I'm pretty sure that at many times this board has been occupied by people on the dais who don't read and understand the rules of order. And that's been clear by things that have been said and decisions have been made. But the reality is that once you agendize a public comment section, the law says you have to let people speak. So if you force them to check a box and they don't check the box, or they refuse to check the box, are you essentially saying that you're going to deny them the ability to speak because maybe somebody read it or they don't understand it? Or maybe you should like print it up in, I don't know, 36-point font and mount it on a picture on the wall in the lobby so everybody can read it while they're waiting to come in and sign up to speak. But I think that part of it is just a little bit absurd. And I would like to offer Supervisor Martin the option that I have been touting for quite some time on this call to the public thing. I think that because everyone's schedule is different, I objected at the time to putting call to the public at the end. I think you should have one at the beginning and one at the end, but you can't sign up for both. So if you can only be here in the morning, but then you have to go to work, you can come, and that way everybody isn't trying to rush to be either here in the morning or wait all day to do it at the end, but you can't do both. You can do one in the morning, or you can do one at the end because maybe you have to drop the kids off at school, but you still want to come and bring an issue before the board. Then you can do that at the end of the meeting. That's an option I've been telling people that I think is a very viable thing. I think that it was horrific to move it to the end and silence the voice of the public for people that cannot sit around and wait for hours and hours, and unlike you guys, aren't getting paid to do so. But I do think that the check the box thing is a bit absurd and ridiculous, because there are people in this community, they might read it, but they can't guarantee they understand it. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd open up to the board for additional discussion or a possible motion.
Motion
Borelli, thank
approved.
you. Motion to approve. Do I have a second? Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Move to item number 53. Amend Mojave County Personnel Policies and Procedures to include section 3.29, Craig Tiger Policy and Leave Request. I did agendize this board. The Craig Tiger Act was passed during the 2018 Arizona legislative session as House Bill 2502. It was signed into law by Governor Doug Ducey on April 23rd, 2018, with an effective date of August 3rd, 2018. The act created and expanded Arizona's traumatic event counseling protections for public safety personnel after the death of Phoenix police officer Craig Tiger. According to what is published on the Mojave County website, the Mojave County personnel policies and procedures were approved on April 4th, 2016, and were last revised on September 16th, 2024. This item would add a new section to include section 3.29, Craig Tiger Act Policy and Leave Request, to the Mojave County Personnel Policies and Procedures. And an additional ask, although it's not agendized, would be for HR to add a table of contents, to add page number references to the policy so that you can simply go to the page section you want without having to endlessly scroll. Director Dammers, do you want to come up and present?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. Yes, we are happy to be able to create the policy according to the statutory requirements. We are extending a leave form, which, will allow us to produce the regulatory reports that are required every September of every year. We have a discussion with Sheriff Schuster on all of this, and, he's very pleased that we are making the Craig Tigers Act policy, official for the county. And we already have, at least 2 people that are in the process of taking advantage of that.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have Sheriff Schuster on? I'd like to get Sheriff Schuster, if he's on Teams, if he'd like to say something.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board, Director Deemers. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this. Obviously, we take mental health awareness very, very seriously at the Sheriff's Office. We ask a lot of law enforcement in general, and we had a long-standing policy wherein officers involved in shootings are given the, well, not even given, we ensure that they are seen by a licensed professional just to do an assessment and then see if there's any treatment needed. But there's so much more to law enforcement. It's very broad-based. Things happen on a daily basis, and it's good to see that we are putting this into policy. You know, it's been around since 2018, and we're a little behind the curve on it, but moving forward, this is something that is definitely going to be beneficial to our law enforcement officers, our dispatchers, and I want to thank you, Chairman Lingenfelter, for putting it on the agenda. I did have a couple questions of Director Deemer. I just was curious if we've established providers, a provider or providers, and I'm curious what the timeline would be. I anticipate using this in the future, so I'd like to know the direction we need to go in.
Thank you, Sheriff. Director Demers?
Chairman, members of the board, Sheriff Schuster, yes. We do not establish providers because part of this legislation is to allow for the employee or for the person that's needing of this counseling to choose a provider of their own. If the providers that we normally would refer, but the providers that are part of our network are not the providers of choice. So not only they have the option to use the providers that we can refer to, or they have the option to choose their own providers. The process is very simple. There is the form has been is going to be published, and the website is also being provided to Amanda Lawrence at the sheriff's office. So as soon as there is a need, it's just a matter of completing the form, and we will move through the process and just discuss with the employee. Will be a necessity to, would you like to use one of the providers? We have provider lists, or they can choose their own licensed provider. And just as far as timeline, there is no timeline, so this is, there is no restriction dates. This act also protects the employee on their leave time, meaning that they can go seek counseling without having to suffer any wage losses, and we will just monitor the events and the timelines with the employees.
Sheriff Schuster, does those answers are adequate for your questions?
Yeah, they are, and I thank you for that. I think my concern, which you did answer, was the provider list. I understand they can seek out their own, but if we have a working provider list, when the individuals are going through crisis like this, it's always very beneficial to get information for them to make it a little easier. So yeah, you've answered my questions, and thank you.
Director Demers, would it be a possibility to just have some, I don't know if procurement could lend their hand on just having sort of an on-call list of somebody or interested providers or something, that if there's an incident that could be that list could be referred to the sheriff's personnel or dispatch or adult detention facility people?
Absolutely. I will work with procurement also to expand the network of providers.
Thank you. Open up for discussion with the board.
Motion to approve.
Supervisor Martin?
I have a comment I want to make on this. I fully support this because on December 7th, a number of years ago, I was involved in a situation as a law enforcement officer where I discharged my firearm and injured an individual. I didn't kill him, but it wasn't because I didn't try. But the problem was I was not even asked if I wanted to talk to somebody. And to this day, I have issues about that because it was not offered by the agency for me to talk to somebody. And obviously, I wanted to talk to somebody because taking a human life is something that, even as a police officer, that's something you hope it never happens. But if it does, you got to be able to reach out and talk to people. So I absolutely think that this is needed and should be adopted by us in the county so that when an officer is placed in that situation, they do have it. Because I'm going to tell you, it happened many, many years ago for me, and it still haunts me to this day that I never got to talk to anybody about this. So I will make a motion that we approve.
You can have a second. Supervisor Gould has made the motion.
I'll second that.
I do want to say this is important, and I want to thank the board for their support for actually formally adding this to our policy. It needs to be in our policy, so thank you very much for that. We have a motion in second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Item number 54, discussion, possible action, approve and authorize the chairman of the board to sign a proclamation implementing an outdoor fire and permissible consumer fireworks prohibition effective May 21st, 2026 at 8 a.m. in the unincorporated areas of Mojave County pursuant to ARS 26-311 and Mojave County Ordinance 2023-04 as recommended by the Division of Emergency Management.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
Make a motion to approve with the exception of the 4th of July in areas of Mojave County below 4,200 foot elevation.
Heard that motion. I have a second. I have a second.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. We'll move to the call to the public. Scotty McClure.
Everyone.
Scotty from Bullhead. I gave you guys all a copy of this. This is when we were running for District 2 Supervisor 2 years ago. And as you can see, Grace Heck signed the written nomination petition, and she also did the electronic one. What was her intent? That's the thing I'm trying to bring up here. Why was she doing this? She thinks she's just special. She was on the city council at that time. And what the hell gives her the right to sign both of them? Now that brings me up, as you guys know, I've been to the Supreme Court twice. Made it that far on Tammy Ring and been knocked down on a technicality twice. And in court down there at Lake Havasu on a technicality before I even got to present one damn thing up here. None of this is all. This costs over $100 to send to the Supreme Court in Phoenix down there. 50 cents a page. Not 20 cents like you did in Bullhead. But to get knocked out 3 times, 3 court cases, 70-something people should have been knocked out, taken off this petition. 22 of these people also signed both nominations. They did the electronic and they did the signature. 22 people. And they got thrown out on 3 technicalities 3 times. I've been there. This is bullshit. Excuse my foul language, Republican Party. I'm ashamed of you in this county. That each city Republican Party will not go down there and look at this. This stuff gets stuck in a box. Well, I pulled it out of a box. You're a disgraced Republican Party that you don't check on this stuff. And she's gonna get to be on the ballot. What was her intent? 70-something times, and there's people that took the petitions and signed them on the back. There's rules right on the front page. You don't do this stuff. But it got stuck in a box. They all get upstairs. You run for district supervisor, you get stuck in a box. Nobody ever looks at it. This is bull. Republican Party, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. I don't want to ever hear another thing about an election like 2020 was. You got your problems right here in Humboldt County. And Mr. Davis, I want to make a motion that you see your boss and take this to the grand jury. What was her intent? I guess that's it.
Armin Stanged, you're next up. And Jennifer, you're on deck.
I'm in front of Fort Mojave, aka the here. Let's start. Here's the house I complained about. That's 4365 South Cavalry Road. You see half the roof is missing. In the background, you see the shop. Oh. So you see the roof missing on the house and everything else. It got reported as a dangerous building years and years ago, and nothing has been done about it. The front of the house looks like a tennis court. Now you can see on the pictures, sorry, I don't have the pictures from the front, but where the roof is falling in from the eave down. And this picture I got sent on Monday, the 5th, from Development Services. There's nothing wrong with the house. That's a picture from 2023. It's a little old. The timestamp and everything on there, you know, that picture is 3 years old. The house is totally dilapidated. That house needs to go, and it's on less than an acre, where we have, 1 acre plus property. Let's go to the next one. There is the shop, supposedly being re-roofed. According to county ordinance, you can re-roof without a permit with the same roofing material. Am I right or wrong? I don't know. But it looks like there's corrugated steel going up on the shop, and that is a complete new roof put up. It should be.
Thank you.
Okay.
Jennifer Esposito?
Thank you, Jennifer Esposito. Kingman, I would just like to say that I come to you today and speak to you, the board, as an elected precinct committeeman for the Republican Party. Now, I know that some of you are precinct committeemen with the Republican Party. I know that Supervisor Martin is not. Now, he made a defamatory comment falsely stating that I had been removed as a precinct committeeman with the Republican Party on his Facebook page, which he uses for official constituent correspondence. So I would like to clear that up for everybody listening. The Mojave County Republican Central Committee has no authority to remove me or anyone else as a precinct committeeman. They cannot hold a secret meeting of, 5 people, not even sure if the district directors are eligible to vote, but you can't have a secret meeting in the back room and just say, you're gone, you're not a PC anymore. Guess what? Still a PC. Want to recall me? Go for it. Okay? But that's not how it works. And the fact that the chairman of the MCRCC doesn't even know that. What's even more disturbing is she's the executive assistant for Supervisor Borelli. Fortunately for the party, I hear she's leaving and going back to Texas, which is really too bad because I'm feeling kind of litigious over this defamation, stating that I've been removed from something that I can't be removed from. Ironically, after the vote, it was announced that the District 1 director has resigned to run for District 4 supervisor. Fascinating, isn't it? The MCRCC has what they call a vetting committee. but it appears that the vetting committee is in violation of AZGOP bylaws. You can read all about this in my Critical Thinking editorial in the May issue of the Mojave Free Press. You can read it right now on Substack if you like. But you know, there is no way to just say, oh, we decided you're gone. Once you're elected or declared elected, it doesn't work like that. If it worked like that, some of you would have been gone, because if all it took was 5 people to get upset, you'd probably all be gone. I imagine at any given time, you've all made 5 or 10 people upset enough that they would have liked to hold a secret meeting and removed you as elected officials. But it doesn't work like that. This is defamation. I'm owed an apology. The other thing is he stated that my lawsuit against David Rose challenge was frivolous. Let me assure you, there is nothing frivolous about a candidate who has a fraudulent date of birth well documented on their voter registration. Thank you.
Diana Francis.
Diana Francis, yours. I have an issue with the Topak School. That school was never supposed to be in the first place. I bought my property in 1967. I was 17 years old. A selling point was, it's a retirement community. You're never going to have school taxes. Well, we do, and they're out of control. They're ridiculous. So I am running for the school board to try to find out what's going on, and I would like this board to investigate what happened to the records and the computer. All the records, the books, the computers were gone when this new administration came into the school. John Warren was the superintendent. When he left, everything left with him. And I would like to request this board to issue a forensic audit on what happened to all that stuff, because I am meeting on the 23rd with our conservative person that's running for governor about if he gets elected to go after it. It's better if the county goes after it before the state. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
That was the last person we had signed up to speak. We are adjourned.